You are listening to the Business Leadership Podcast with Edwin Frondozo.
Hello. I'm Paul Newton, creative producer of the Future Narrator miniseries, and I'm joined by Edwin Frondozo, host of the Business Leadership Podcast. We are recording live at Web Summit Vancouver 2025, where we're exploring how today's leaders shape the future, not just through strategy, but through story. We believe that a strong point of view is what inspires communities, builds movements, and cuts through the noise in uncertain times. So let's dive into this conversation. Today's guest is a visionary technologist helping businesses unlock the power of cloud and AI at enterprise scale. Manav Gupta is the Vice President and Chief Technology Officer of IBM Canada, where he leads the national technical sales organization, including brand specialists, client engineering teams, and solution architects. With over 25 years of experience in distributed systems, Manav is known for guiding IBM's top clients through complex transformations from hybrid cloud adoption to scaling AI across the enterprise. He is also an IBM Distinguished Engineer, a master inventor with 45 patents, and the author of multiple books on cloud computing, big data, and blockchain. Whether he's building strategies or solving technical roadblocks, Manav brings clarity, depth, and relentless curiosity to everything he does.
Welcome to the Business Leadership Podcast, Manav. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. It's been a great summit. A lot of energy, a lot of excitement. It's good to see so many startups from across the country. Just the energy, the excitement, and meeting new people such as yourselves. It's fantastic. So I'm so glad that I've managed to make the time to be both at the Web Summit as well as meeting you gentlemen today.
Yeah, it's amazing. And one thing we're actually keen to learn as well before we get into it, Manav, is, we're in Vancouver. Personally, I'm from Toronto. Paul's in Ottawa. When it comes to having this Web Summit, in Vancouver, what's one thing that's really stood out for you, maybe within the region or the folks that you're meeting or just this whole experience?
I think just flat out, it's the city. The city is just so beautiful, so attractive. And maybe a little bit of a backstory about me. So I met my wife when I used to live in England, and I would travel to Vancouver for work. But my wife did a bait and switch, as I like to joke with her. So we met in Vancouver, and I fell in love both with her as well as the city. But then when we got married, she said, okay, we're moving to East Coast. And East Coast is not quite Vancouver, is it?
No way. I mean, that's an amazing story, Manav. So thank you for sharing that. And we're happy that we met you here. Not to say we're going to fall into that type of relationship, but hope we have a very good conversation here. So just jumping into your work here with IBM Canada, and specifically the problem that you're looking to solve when it comes to, I guess, everything from hybrid cloud transformation and now, which is the big thing in the summit, enterprise AI adoption.
Sure. Let me just dive in a little bit. So if you think about enterprises today, big or small, we're all trying to figure out on some similar things, which is how do I get my data into a stage that I can use it to generate some insights, whether it's around acquiring new clients, lowering my cost, or innovation. Then the second thing that I want to be able to do with that data is develop or consume an AI model or add that data into an existing model, whoever that model might be, to gain some insights, right? All to gain some new business, gain some revenue. Let's just call it that quite simply. What's interesting is if you take a step back, there is a small number of really large language models, right? And I mean, really the whole discussion around AI came to the forefront only in November 2022.
That's right.
I mean, prior to that, and I have a degree in AI, nobody really cared about AI. Right?
Yeah.
Most of the AI projects would die on the vine because the discussion would center around ROI. Safe to say now that I think we're past that. There is so much excitement about, hey, what can I do with AI, right? So if you balance now and put all of that together, if I'm a Canadian company, again, regardless of the size, we are all grappling with similar issues, which is how can I take a model. First of all, which model to use? How can I take that model, deploy it in a location or a cloud of my choice? Doesn't have to be from one vendor or any single vendor, so to speak. How can I then safely add my data, that's my crown jewels, that's unique to me, that makes me who I am, whatever that business is, and do it such that I respect the laws of the land, and such that, especially with all of the geopolitical situation that is going on, how do I do it within the Canadian boundaries without that data leaving my border? That's the crux of the solutions or the problems that I've been trying to address with my team.
That's an interesting view, and the perspective that you bring that might be different from some of the startup founders that we talked to, because they're not obviously, but sometimes they're just working with different small solutions given a very specific set. And I'm curious, when you think about this, and I'm an engineer, I'm a computer engineer, and I remember when cloud came, I come from the telecom world, and I've been in conversation with people. It's like, I'd love just to get your thoughts on this. When we come to this data privacy and understanding what's our intellectual property and these data insights, I feel like we're almost going full circle when we're going to need CPE equipment and we're going to need our data here. I'm not putting my data in the cloud anymore. Well, just to get your insights on this, it may not be IBM's, but what?
Look,
yeah,
100% agree.
Yeah.
So let's just look at globally what's going on.
Yes.
Right. There is rise of protectionism
Mm-hmm.
everywhere, right? Not just across the border,
Mm-hmm.
but if you look at what's happening in parts of Europe, not all of it, certainly Russia, China, India, and
Mm-hmm.
other parts of the world, Hungary as an example.
Mm-hmm.
So those headwinds then force our leadership and us Canadians to make decisions on what we do with our data
Mm-hmm.
and who do we give our data to. That's at a broader level. If you look at if I'm a startup as an example, I totally get it, right? I want something that's easy to use,
Mm-hmm.
pay as you go, that I can consume as I need it, right? And in that scenario, because I'm starting with maybe not the real data, but dummy data, test data, synthetic data, I really want to get started and bootstrap really, really quickly.
Get out there right away.
Get out there right away, build a product, entice some people.
Yeah.
But soon as you go from that to, okay, I now have some customers,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're a small and medium enterprise or a large enterprise, where you now are into a regulated industry, where you might have some sensitive PII data. Now you got to decide what are you going to do with that data, right? So we're already beginning to see new legislation come in, right? Especially if you are into a regulated industry, like, financial services as an example, or a public sector entity in insurance and telco.
Yeah.
There are laws around, hey, the data should be hosted in, for example, a data center that's in Canadian geopolitical boundary.
Mm-hmm.
So that, I think, is the balance that we will have to strike as a society.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that, even though we might see changes happening, political stances might change over a period of time, I think Canadians and our leadership will have to decide what Canada becomes. I think we had almost an over-reliance onto this relationship with our neighbor.
Yes.
Maybe there is time now for us to rebalance that trade with, I'm not saying that no trade, but
Right.
I think there might be some equitable balance that we might have to have with perhaps other trading partners, such as the EU, because in some respects we are closer to the EU in just how our social security is, the high degree of support and faith we have in our government.
Right.
I mean, listen, we still have greater than 70% turnout at polity, right? At polls, as an example, which is only in the European Union.
Mm-hmm.
So if you put all of that together, all I'm suggesting is, beyond a certain scale, for startups
Mm-hmm.
and for large enterprises, they absolutely have to make a decision around what the world is loosely calling AI sovereignty, right? And the more we look out into the world, Canada has to make a decision on how do we improve our own productivity, right? How do we improve our ranking on innovation? And in order to do the first two, you have to you have to have a really strong opinion on what happens to your data.
That's right. Yeah. That's amazing, Manav. That's really cool. So given that context, you sitting with an IBM, working with enterprises, I'm curious, you have a vast amount of history, where you came from, different solutions. What is your personal unique point of view that you see that will help you solve
Sure.
a lot of these problems?
So, listen, I'm a big believer that AI has to be open for societies, communities, and individuals to excel, and for us to be controllers of our own destiny, number one. Number two, and I say this to whoever I meet, I think all of us have to go beyond just an AI consumer to an AI value creator. And whatever that might mean in your context. I'm not alleging that everybody becomes technical. I hope that they try to become technical or become as much technical as they can. But just the simple thing that when you're talking to a GPT, it's just a next token prediction engine. Right? Just understanding that, okay, hey, if you just ask it a follow-up question, are you sure? And then you see a different answer emerge.
That's right.
Right? We'll begin to tell people that what they're talking to is not this sentient entity.
That's right.
That's, I think, what I try to imbibe in not just our clients, but also internally into our teams. And that's the thinking that goes into building our products as well.
Well, I like the discussion you started around just Canada and increasing the productivity here, and how you see everybody needing to become more technical or more involved with AI.
Yeah.
I mean, having come from England over to here, and prior to England, clearly from somewhere else, having perspectives from life in different countries. How do you think that that's shaped how you see things now?
I think it has allowed me to look at, I'll say, almost a critical lens at how Canada as a society has been pursuing our ambitions of the wealth of both resources, natural and people, that we have. And maybe one can argue that we aren't quite leveraging the plethora of resources that are available to us. So I was born in India, I studied in India, I studied in England, I spent some time in the US, and I've been in Canada now for over a decade. I think one of the fundamental things that I learned is, first of all, Canadians love experimentation. We love our POCs, no matter the size or scale of the organization. But we are too reticent or risk averse. What I see in our counterparts across the border is they'll do the experimentation, but they're not afraid to take a bet, to take a chance. Sure, it might result into some of the more extreme behavior that we see, but it also gives them the economic advantage that was attracting the best talent around the world.
Yeah.
I think that little bit of that conservatism that exists, or the risk averseness that we have, that has to be addressed for sure. I think the second thing that I see is, and I've talked to many researchers in academia across many universities, I'm constantly amazed by the talent that we have, but we just don't challenge ourselves. I think we have to be, as a society, stop accepting, I don't want to call it mediocrity, but average.
Yeah.
Average is not good enough, especially in this age of LLMs, right? I could hire a average, person historically, but if I can get a generator to do that task for me, the individual has to bring something more beyond what I can just get a silly machine to do.
Right.
So having that point of view and being unafraid and experiment and being able to experiment and take a bet, those are critical things that I think that as a country we need to really ask ourselves, are we ready to do that? It's only then are we going to be able to be ready for the future, especially with everything that's going on globally.
And so taking chances and striving to be exceptional, is that, where did that come from in you?
I think some of this is immigrant ethic.
Yeah.
Right, for sure. Right, to be quite kind. I mean, it's the same dose that I give to my kids as well. So I have 3 little boys, and around dinner table and on a daily basis, this is our constant debate. Right, you must experiment. You have to be, rather than a know-it-all, be a learn-it-all. Right, you have to be intellectually curious. You have to have a growth mindset. Like, these are all basic things that we need. And again, as I said, I do a lot of hiring as well. I'm constantly amazed by how switched on and how aware our youngsters are. But I think falls up to us as leaders to then guide them, to motivate them that it's okay to fail fast, right? Fail safely, but move on so that you can grow and take bigger risks. And that's what we try to do in our organization as well, quite candidly, right? I mean, we had to do a bit of a pivoting ourselves. Like, just as an example, the cycle time of our products from inception to making it to general availability. We brought it down quite substantially to like from over a year to about a quarter. We're not quite there yet. Like we wanted to be even faster as an example.
That's pretty cool.
Right? But that's how you do these things, right? You have to let 1,000 flowers bloom. That's how innovation grows.
So what's the dinner table conversation that parents should be having now?
I think number one conversation in today's world has to be around AI, the use of AI, the ethical use of AI, where the AI, how to detect AI, some of the pitfalls and dangers of AI. So as long as you and I, all of us as parents and anybody that's listening, watching to this, we have to consciously put this tech in our kids' hands, right? We cannot be Luddites to say, block this or don't do this. In some respects, you can argue that 100 years ago, people were having the same conversation about abacus or ruler or calculator. Mm-hmm. The cat's out of the bag. It's now, how do you use this? How do you put guardrails around it, right? How do you add on top of what this thing cannot do?
Yeah, I mean, the Luddites that were burning the looms and things to prevent job losses.
Exactly.
Now, we can't burn anything. So
cat's out of the bag. Like there's nothing you can do. I mean, I think the other thing to do is that, like I talk to a lot of people in the industry and some of the parents as well, and the constant thing I keep telling them is that, okay, so are you telling me you're not going to be using a cell phone? Are you not going to be using video transmission? Mm-hmm. Like, we don't realize how much of the tech we are consuming, right? It's been part of the, I'll say, societal fabric, so we don't appreciate it sometimes. This is a new thing. And then, of course, everybody is paranoid what it's going to do and the potential job losses and so on. I think we all have to adapt to have this a part of our lives. And then for Canadians at large, sincerely, my message is, how do we make this Canada-led, Canada-driven, right? So that we benefit, our society, our economy benefits versus somebody else's.
Manav, that's amazing. I love how, in terms of, I have 2 young children, so it's really, refreshing in the sense as, have those hard conversations and be open to it and don't be afraid. I'm curious when it comes to the business leadership. It's just the last question before we close off is, I'm curious how you're pivoting in the way you are leading your teams and your organizations when it comes with the rise of AI. Of course, you're thinking about implementation and adoption for your clients, but how have you shifted the way you lead your teams now?
Oh, 100%. So, I mean, just as an example, when GPT became this huge thing in November of 2022, we realized very, very early on that as an organization, and IBM is a global company with a significant Canadian presence, but we had this problem that we had to make all of our employees be aware. So we had to train everybody. So we decided to gamify it. So we created a week-long challenge. We've done it twice now. We're doing it on an annual basis. So we called it our Watson X, which is the brand name, our AI challenge, really. And we paired everybody, regardless of their skill level, into a virtual team. And then we allowed those teams to ideate over a period of a week and create something. So everybody had to be hands-on.
It's like a hackathon.
It's a hackathon, but it's a virtual hackathon, but it was more around experiment and play and imagine, right? Especially with how this tech is, we are only limited by the extent of our imagination. And what it allowed us to do is, number one, we used our own technology. So we learned how to scale that tech. So that's one benefit that we got out of that, right? Client zero ourselves. But more importantly, we're able to educate everybody. Now, I mean, 1 week of education is obviously not enough, but it certainly allowed
awareness.
It empowered people. They started being less afraid of it. And then once awareness is a part of it, then they began to understand how to spot it, how to imagine different use cases. It gave us tons of use cases to work on as well. That's how we pivoted. And ideas, 100%, right? How to take out costs. Okay, what are the things that we're doing today that perhaps we can do without?
You are listening to the Business Leadership Podcast with Edwin Frondozo.